to WordPress Glasgow. I'm guessing you all had that lovely speech earlier. I'm not sure, and Thomas kind of bit. So we are now live on YouTube. I'm Kathryn Reeve, and this is From Basics to Pro with Advanced Custom Fields. So basically, a little bit about myself first. I'm also Kathryn, Kat for short, Reeve. I'm known as Binary Kitten in most places online. I'm an open source contributor with contributions to WordPress Core, Zen Framework, joined in the messaging site and PHP Women. I'm also a developer for MTC, a company that does specialist bespoke web development, who are based in Dundee. I'm not based in Dundee because if I was, that would be a lot easier for me to get to Glasgow. But since I'm not, I'm here in Manchester. I'm presenting over this. So, Advanced Custom Fields is a plugin. It's easy, quick, and simple. It allows you to add extra fields into loads of different places and then use those to generate extra content. So by default, you can add very simply, you can add very quick fields like names and other bits and pieces. And from there, you can also add various different things like Google Maps and all the bits and pieces that you can want. So, but you can also have advanced usage. So those include like creating wizards for the front end. You can have custom user-controlled layouts where you can add different content parts. I've used it to create quizzes, so you can go and like answer different questions, get different answers, and have it display differently. Things like that. You can have galleries, so you can have custom slideshows, and all of those can be done with advanced custom fields, as well as a lot more things that I generally don't get involved with because I'm not that creative. But rather than just talk about advanced custom fields, we're going to do a live demo. And this is where it usually all goes wrong. So let's try this. And so we're going to have a lot of switching between the screen share, so that we can then see what is being shared. So, right. So, so let's go and share the WordPress. So, you should now be able to see the basic page. So, first off, I earlier today created a very simple, quick install using the WP CLI for the basic site. So this is just the 2017 theme on a standard WordPress install. Nothing special, nothing else. From there, I've then also gone through and I've installed the Advanced Custom Fields Pro. So basically, that gives us the pro version of it. That is a paid-for plugin. There is a free version that doesn't handle all of the everything that we're going to go through, but it does cover quite a lot of different things. And basically, that is the beginning of it. So all we need to do is go through and install the plugin, and then we get it. So we then get this little section here, which is the custom fields. Can everybody see that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So on here, we effectively create field groups. These are like groupings that will appear in wherever you want to put them. So to start off with, I've got none here because I wanted to come in like from basics to the pro. This is the basics of it. I've also created a simple single page, and that's basically just got the content there. So nothing special. This is completely vanilla. if anybody's got any questions, please do ask. We have got the chat also available on YouTube. So if you're watching that, you can grab it as well. So basically from here, we can go to add new. So either up here as you would expect for a post, or over to the left as you would expect. So we create a new group, and this is where everything is set up. So let's give this one is a custom subtitle. So this is our custom subtitle group that we're going to create, and we want to say that this is going to show on all pages. Very simple, creating the rules of where this appears. So you can say, create if the post type is equal to page, and the post type is equal to post, so you can then say show on all those bits. There are other options as well, so you can say like where the post template is something, where the post status is a draft, you can set like add extra data. All of these are settings so that when these conditions are met, it then shows up the form on the editor. So for basics, we're just going to say when the post type is equal to page. So we've got no fields on here, but let's publish this so that we can then see. We go to the editor, and if you look at the bottom here, we have the custom subtitle group. So we've already got the group there to add that. So back on our editor for the field group, we can then add a field. Here we've got all the different options for that particular field on here. And here we can have like text, text area, number, etc., etc. WYSIWYG editor, image, gallery, files, multiple choices options, things to link it to other things like other posts, etc. And you can do fancy JavaScript bits with like a time picker, a color picker, a Google map, etc. Like the date pickers, etc., the date times, etc. They're great for if you're creating, say, an event as a custom post type and you want to specify the start time, for example. The color picker you could possibly specify so that you can create like whatever way you want to do those bits. And then these are all the extra special fancy bits that we will come to a little bit later. And it's not showing that, so that is a bit annoying. So you can't see all the different options that are shown in there. It's not popping it up. Chrome, who knew that it would not show it in the same window frame? Let me just switch the presentation where it's pulling it from. So do that, and let's share the whole screen too. So as I say, those are the options. Those are all the basic options. There are a load of extra fields which you can get, which you can install extra plugins to do. And if you're really want to be creative, you can create your own plugins, which create your own field types. And there's documentation to support all that. So for this particular example, we are going to just create a simple text field, and we are going to call this. We're going to call this subtitle, and automatically that gives us a field name. That is the bit that we're going to need to be able to pull that out. And then we give it a nice description. So please pull this in to show subtitle, and we'll make it required so that it has some validation. All of this is extra that we'll come to in a bit. So are we all following along at this point?
We're okay. Everybody okay?
Yeah.
Cool. If I'm going too fast, please stop me, because without any of the visual feedback of being able to look at your lovely faces, I have no clue whether it's all sinking in. So please stop me if I am going too fast. So now we've created that field, we can now reload this tab here, and you can see this is now appeared at the bottom. It also gives us like the little red star saying that it needs to be filled in. So if we go and try and click update, it goes, please fill this in. It actually prevents you from completing the page editor until you filled it in. So we're going to call this, if I click on the right thing, not the presentation, we're going to say this is hello, this is the demo. So this is just creating it. So we now save that, and if we go and view, it's not there. Nothing's there. We've got this word frog, but that's just because of the example that I got. So basically from that, we can now go across to here. So view presentation mode. So this is just PHP Storm, and I've basically just opened up the 2017 content part, which you can see I've put in here from. So basically from that, we want to kind of specify the extra bits. So what we want to do is here is not put it as H1 because SEO, we don't really want it to be H1 as a second one at this point. But the simple bit we do here is we do PHP, the field, and we save that, and then we switch over to back to this page here, and we reload, and automatically it's pulled in the text from that field. So there we go. So again, we've just changed that, we reload, and we've got that. So now if we go and do it in another new page, we call this like demo 2 and demo 2. We can then go and view that page, and it's automatically put that text through. So on every page that we've got, we can now put a custom subtitle. Means that if the user wants to put something else in there or create those extra bits, then we can do that. But that's very, very basic, and that's pretty much the bit from that. So we can go back and we can edit the field group. So some of the other options here is we can change it. So we can do seamless. So seamless basically means that when we're editing it, it doesn't create that frame around. It just sets it directly in. Kind of similar to like the permalink and title bit up here. So that's kind of cool. But what we want to do is kind of say, okay, under the subtitle, we want this, not before that, we want it after the title. So that when they come in to edit the page, they have the title, they have the permalink, and then they have the subtitle, and then the content. That makes more sense when you're trying to get people to edit the page. So again, this still works exactly as before. The front end doesn't really deal with anything different. So that is, for all intents and purposes, the very basics of what you need for doing it. So let's kind of have a little bit of next. So some of the extra fields that we can do. So I'm going to come and create a new field group for this. I'm going to create example 2 and create it as a page again. So we'll publish that one. So let's add a field. So we can go through and say have a image. So on here we can specify what preview size it is. We can say like the dimensions that it needs to be, maximum they can upload, minimum, maximum, etc. Allow file types. All of these prevent people from uploading some bits. Of course, there are ways around it, but again, there are still ways that you need to protect yourself. So we can do this as an image. So we just call this as like a banner. So again, we're not really worrying about this size. This preview size is only what is on the preview. It's shown when entering data. It's not actually shown on what we need to pull out. So we can either pull an image ID or an image URL. I'm going to go quickly for an image URL here. So let's just go for the thumbnail for a quick one, and then save that. So if we now go to edit page, we have the extra bit here. So I'm going to upload set a file. It's not allowing me to do so. Okay. So let me quickly go and grab an image, one of my usual test images. So this is this is Daisy. She's a lovely cow. So I've created that, and that is now the banner image. So if we go view this page now, again, nothing's changed because we need to go and update the template. So on the template, let's try and put the image in. So basically what I'm just going to do is call the field, and what did we call that field? We just called it banner. So, banner.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yep.
I have used it a bit. I've never used the word selector in the field of PHP.
Right.
What?
So, basically, the PHP Storm in its latest version basically highlights the parameters that you pass through. So if you see like above here on title, it's showing before and after. That's because those are the variables for that function, and as such, it kind of shows you that details. It's a feature of PHP Storm. So in the field, the actual argument, the value that is passed through, is stored as $selector. So if I go to the field, as you can see, $selector, and then post ID, etc. If I was to put more details in the call, then that would basically show the other keys.
Yeah.
Sense?
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
So it's basically it's a fancy feature of PHP Storm, which I kind of like. Again, there are variants on other editors as well, but since most of the development time I do is in PHP Storm, in PHP, I kind of deal with this kind of versions, and kind of having to remember every parameter sometimes kind of a bit confusing. So this helps quite a bit. So I've called the field out and called it to output banner. So if we go back to the demo page here, we can see that it has outputted the URL. So what we need to do is go back and then say on here, we go image source equals, and then basically we just can do that and save and reload. So already we've created an image that's uploaded it into the media area. We can specify different thumbnail sizes, etc. So on our field here, if we specified the image ID, we can then pull out and display it at a different size. Basically using the same code as if you were to display the featured image on a different size. You basically get the media ID and specify it through. There's all example code in WordPress's codex for how to do that, particularly with image and different media. So I won't cover that in this. So We've covered the very basics. This is like how to create a form, create the fields and everything else. So at this point, I'm going to open it up and see what kind of guidance you would like to go from here. What else would you like to see next?
Quiz.
Sorry?
A quiz.
A quiz? Yeah, so a quiz is a lot of logic. So for it, the way that we did was I created a new field group, and from there I created the simple thing of a repeater. So let me go and add a repeater to this example too. Repeater fields allow you to have a select amount of fields that you repeat, and you can use those for tables. You can use that to create a list of thumbnails or names, anything that you wish. So we'll go through and create that as a repeater. So we call this with that. So on this, in our subfields, and this is where it gets interesting, is that you can add as many other field types as you like. So here, for example, and let's call this one name, and that's a simple one there. So we do that, and then we go age, and we specify that as a number. So that will go through. So now we can specify on each time we go through, and we can add that. So we can, instead of saying add row, we can customize this to say add person, and we can update. So now on the editor, we get this lovely section here, which just says name and age. We can add a person, and we can say and we can do this as many times as we like. One of the other things is that by default, it comes with the ability to rearrange them, so we can have them in any order. Again, we can call update on that. So first off, we can then, if we switch back to our code, we can use the same kind of principle to output that. So we can then go PHP, the field, save, switch, and go to this page. So, but it's outputted array, array, array. And that's because all we're doing, the field automatically just spits out the content. It does the same as echo. So if you were echoing the data, it would just output it as that. That's not quite what we're after. So there are a few different ways that we can interact with a repeater. We can do rows equals get field, which would then call it and return it all in rows. Or we can use the alternative preferred syntax, which is very much similar to what you're used to with kind of the looping, etc. So while have rows repeater the row, and we'll do one here, and while you're all, I'm getting familiar with the WordPress loop. So from here, we can now output that data. So we can now call another function, which is like either get subfield or the subfield. So on here, we can do like h2 over h3. And do the subfield name is And by default, when we reload, that is outputted like. And it means that we can iterate through. If we wanted to, we can represent that as a table. So a little bit of autocomplete there, magic. So again, very, very quickly, we can go through that. We can just again reload, and we've now created that, except that we want to kind of shift this to here. And then put that slash table after that. Just because we only want to repeat the title. So why is that not working?
T2.
Yeah, that'll be why. There we go. Magic. Thank you very much. So again, it is very simple. You can add the lists. You can have, if we wanted to, we could add an image so that you could then output, say, a profile picture or anything of those kind of regards. And from there, the repeater gives you the ability to create lists of related content. So you can use it to create your own custom gallery if you wish to. Though there is a gallery feature, which is a lot better for management. So if we go through, we can add in a gallery. Where is it? Gallery there. Again, I've not really done much with the gallery myself. But we can edit the page, and on here you can basically get the gallery, which then allows you to select multiple images and have them multiple on there and interact with them, etc., as a gallery inside the editor. This is getting a bit messy, so I'll just save that very quickly, but this is getting a bit long in the tooth. So what I'll do here is, well, we can add some layouts. So I'm going to do a tab, and we'll call this as like the banner, and then we basically move that above there. So we've got the banner tab. And then we need to add another field, which again is another tab one, and we call this like repeater, just because we're keeping it simple. Put that up there, and so up there. And we add that. So this doesn't really do much with the fields, but when we reload, we get it nicely set out, so you can then have it nicely coordinated. You can have custom bits and pieces behind here. So the next part that we can do is, like, for example, let's, on this one here, let's add a option field. So we go true, false, show banner. So by default, this is just a yes, no field that we're going to add in here. And by default, that's going to show up as a tick box. There are different UIs that you can tinker with it, but at the moment, it's doing nothing. On here, if we go and edit the banner, we can come down here to conditional logic, and we can then say, only show this field if show banner is equal to checked, or if it's not equal to checked. So we're going to do that, and we're going to save that. Reload that page. We then say, oh look, there's no banner. So we can then tick and show banner. That means that that is there and goes through. The bonus to this is that if you make the banner required, you can make the requirement of it not present unless the person has ticked the box. This allows you to do all sorts of other bits and pieces and kind of just control it. So, for example, now if we go through to our code, we can do the same thing as we did here. And this time we would want to use a get field. So the field name we've got is show banner. So we do PHP if get field show banner. And that will then keep control of that banner. So if we go and view the page, the image is now gone because we've not ticked that tick box and updated it on here. Get that now. That will show it again. Come down and untick it and update. We can then turn it off. This makes adding extra controls, adding extra content, however way you want it, quite simple. So the final part, which is the piece de resistance, as you could say, is the flexible content. So this is kind of similar to the repeater, in so much as that you can add multiple versions of various bits of details. The only difference between that and the repeater is that in this case you can add completely different sets of fields. In this case you can add, like, for example, different content types, and you can then specify the here. So this one we can call it like WYSIWYG, and we can add a single field of the WYSIWYG editor, and etc. And then we can add another one of image, just because we've gone through this, and go through the same image. So, and again, these are all the standard fields as you have had before. So if we go and update this now, so we just go through very quickly and add a tab. Take that. We can then go and edit the page again. And for on here under layouts now, you can do add row. That pops up and shows you the different layouts that you've got. And you can add those as many times as you like. This is where you can come through and create completely custom layouts for your page. So you can set what type of blocks are, how they render, etc., and basically what content goes into them. And then allow your customers and your clients to basically select those, add them in. You can specify, like, I could say that you could only have one image on the page. So you can say maximum, this will only be added once, whereas you can add as many WYSIWYGs as you like. This then basically this is WYSIWYG. Let's just update it again. Again, we can then go and save that. And that basically gives us the ability to output that. So we can go through to the bottom here. Very quickly, PHP, and do get field flexi. and then so on our demo page 1, we can output C here. This is basically the content that is stored. So you can see that we've got the simple list here of 0 and like 1 and 3. So there's 3 items, 0, 1, and 2. And this is the different content, etc. So this is the image and all the data that comes through it. This is all the raw data. And then from there, we can basically just loop through and we can do the same thing. So if we remove this, and we can then do while have rows flexi so the main problem is that at this point, because it's completely flexible, we don't know what it is. So we need to get the layout type. So on here we can do get row layout, and that basically will return to us what the row layout is based upon the name itself. So on here we can do case and then what it is. So we'll quickly jump back to our field editor, go back to the layout. Not easy if you remember what these things are called, but we've got WYSIWYG and image. So WYSIWYG, we can put that in there. And then we can just, we know that there's a field called WYSIWYG in that layout, so we can then do the subfield WYSIWYG. And that will just input that out. And then we can do case image. And just going to output that very quickly because I know that we are running short on time. And so that basically will output that, and if we turn back now to our demo page, we can see, so let's output the image there. That's the image. It's here. So we've got WYSIWYG, we've got image, and then we've got another WYSIWYG, and they should be outputting the content. That I'm not sure why. So without kind of going through anything that will output at all. Normally, what I usually do in this regard is I store all of the blocks separately, and rather than doing this lovely switch statement on every page, what I will do here is I do get template part, and I do block and get row layout. So that way I can create other files inside the theme. So that will be block-WYSIWYG.php, block-image.php, and then There you go. So yes, basically I've made a typo. But yes, so that way you can put all of the HTML and all of the code that you need to render that into separate blocks and have that output onto your page. So on this part, this is where we get to the shortfall of ACF. Unfortunately, Advanced Custom Fields stores all of your content and all of the things that you save in these sections here. All of this gets saved as post meta, which means that if you do replace all of your content with ACF, it can get quite heavy on post meta. It can cause a little bit of sometimes a slowdown if you've gone a little bit too overboard. There are workarounds for that. There are ways that you can use hooks to kind of go in and take that content when you're using the layout, for example, take the content and then render that directly and save it to the post content on the page. That way you just don't need to worry about the front end. You just basically save it and it should render the HTML as expected. But again, that is the balance of the things. It's whether how much you want to have it, the flexibility and over the other bits. And at this point, I will bring a close to the talk and open the floor up for questions.
Questions? Questions?
I have a question. The reason I mentioned the quiz is because I was curious to see if it's possible to accept user input on the front end using Advanced Custom Fields.
Yes, there is documentation on the sites in here. There is basically a section for creating front-end forms. Where is it? For example, one particular site, Vision Aid, let's bring that one up. Let's see if this actually loads. I'm hoping it will. Let's go to this one. So basically, this is an ACF form that has been added in and gets rendered out onto a particular page. So this is on the front end, and then you basically can fill it in, and then there are certain actions that you go. There is a little bit more that you need to do to get it to do this, and there's kind of a little bit more overhead because you need to write the some more hook code, etc., to be able to save that data to the right places and say that, like in this regard, it creates a draft post and also sends an email to the site administrator to say that that this has been filled out and created. I wouldn't recommend it for everything, but again, it is possible to do that with. That is, all the documentation for it is in the ACF resources here. So how to create a front end form. So there's the other bits here. It's like ACF form head and ACF form, where you specify which one you want to render and things like that with the example code there. So again, you can like render the content out and do this thing. So you can specify, like, this is the fields that appear on the page. As you can see here, my custom field is a field that gets attached to the page editor. And then you've got the ACF form, which is basically specifying that from that. There are lots and bits and pieces for it. And again, all the documentation is on the site.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Kat, I wanted to ask, is there a way of showing the custom fields without changing the theme files, like using the editor that is already there?
On the front end, you generally, you can't inject them into places. without kind of showing that data. So generally, anything that you make change for it, you need to change the theme file to be able to display that content.
Okay.
So if you wanted to add an extra image, even without advanced custom fields, if you want to have that image display, you need to change the theme for it. There are some themes that you can get that already have these advanced custom fields built in, and can also already have that certain bit set up to go and do so. But generally, for rendering on the front end, you need to have that to modify the theme to be able to show that. The same with anything else.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah.
More questions? No. No. I think we're done, Kat.
Okie dokie.
Let me check if there's anything on the YouTube channel.
There's no questions on that.
No questions. Okay. All right then.
So
thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for having me and trying out this brand new technology. And have a good clinic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.